1, number 52, number 16.
They saw my power, man. Ain't no way they're gonna dog me this year.
Number 9, and number 43. The rest of you, if your number wasn't called, better luck next year.
Oh, hey, Coach. What's going on here, man? What about me?
Gilmore, I called your number, didn't I?
No, you didn't.
Oh. Well, better luck next year.
No, that wasn't very nice.
So after asking what people wanted to see next in the line of campaign reviews, everyone unanimously decided they wanted to keep things chronological. So this week we had to take things a little off course. Don't crash on me before we review the next campaign following up No Mercy. Probably my least favorite campaign, and one me and my friends pick when we are literally bored of every other campaign available and play mostly as a meme. But with my personal bias aside, I'm going to take in an unbiased opinion, wipe the slate clean, and try to get through this 2-chapter campaign and review it on how it is. I also want to discuss how Crash Course changed the future of the franchise and how it shaped Left 4 Dead 2. So let's go ahead and review the shoehorned, I would walk 5,000 miles in one chapter, suddenly there's an overarching story, Crash trend-setting campaign itself. This week we review Crash Course. Crash Course, the campaign that broke the narrative of what Left 4 Dead was offering with its 4 original campaigns. Each story more of a single, isolated parody of horror films. Valve originally intending for the series to not really have a connected story, people grew attached to the characters and wanted to see what happened after they escaped from each apocalyptic scenario. Left 4 Dead released in November of 2008, and outside the free survival update with The Last Stand, nothing really new came to the main appeal of the games, which were of course campaign and versus mode. It wasn't until 2 months before Left 4 Dead 2 released, and actually a few months after Left 4 Dead 2 was announced in September of 2009, that Left 4 Dead 1 got its only campaign DLC until the Sacrifice, which I don't really count, for Crash Course. This campaign served a few purposes that shifted how Valve was looking at the Left 4 Dead series. For one, it bridged the gap between No Mercy and Death Toll. This was the first hint and proved that the Left 4 Dead campaigns were not all alternate universes or separate movie scenarios, and that each campaign was interconnected. Whether this was to service fans who wanted one linear story or to just make a new campaign is unknown. But with Left 4 Dead 2 releasing just 2 months later, it seemed as a quick precursor to how the second installment would focus on making an overarching chain of connecting campaigns that also service the Versus playing community. Crash Course was specifically made to serve as a quick match for Versus mode, considering a normal Versus match for each of the 5 chapter campaigns could take close to over an hour, hence why this is the only campaign where you can get an achievement for winning a regular Versus match called Smash Hit. Considering there are so many attack points, car alarms, and so few medical spawns and checkpoints, it's easy to see why this was considered a quick Versus campaign to play, because people would go down fairly quickly compared to other evenly paced chapters from campaigns like Dead Air and Death Toll. So now that we have all the information on Crash Course out of the way, let's get to the review section of the video, shall we? Starting off in the neighboring Whitney County in an open parking lot where the survivors stand looking at the crash helicopter, and surprisingly no one is injured, much like Swamp Fever, we'll talk about that in the future. Francis will tout and bitch and moan at Zoe about shooting the helicopter pilot who turned mid-flight, and if you approach the corpse of the deceased pilot, extra dialogue will occur depending on the first player who approaches.
Look! Hey Zoe, here's the pilot, in case you want to shoot him again.
He was a zombie, Francis.
So Brownie points to the campaign for unique dialogue that expands the characters. Side note, Bill did not recite any new voice lines for Crash Course, possibly due to Jim French's conflicting schedule at the time before release and how quick the campaign was made. We'll get back into that later. The campaign has an inherent problem of being huge and giving multiple routes to go through the chapters, but designed in a way where going through it can either be ridiculously easy or a route so out of the way you don't even notice. For players who are new to the campaign or people like me who really play it, going back to it after an extended period tends to be of a bit of annoyance, getting lost in the almost maze-like setup of these long-ass chapters, and not to mention how many dead ends frequently dot the areas of this map. You go down an alleyway or go through a right building at the beginning that feeds back into this alleyway. The areas are filled with side rooms to check for supplies, but they are so numerous in a condensed but stretched out area, it almost starts to become not worth the effort since you will already be full on resources when you get to each room. Getting to the end of the alleyway, we come to the most numerous cloggage in your linear route. Vehicles in weird positions. A wedged 18-wheeler will force you to go into a warehouse where honestly I think brings you into one of the most endearing spots in the campaign. The roof windows presenting a bit of danger from above, especially in versus mode, where at the time only hunters, smokers, and boomers existed, so getting the drop on indoor survivors was made much more accessible. In regular campaign though, it's just really an aesthetic room you can run through. Going back on the street, you get more side rooms, fenced off areas of emptiness, and more multiple routes that actually, well, seeing the detached train car taking up the road forces you to the right through either the window or the door. Tons of train cars, vehicles, and other wreckage riddle the next area. I guess to really drive home the crash of Crash Course, they have a lot of crashed vehicles. You do find an active car alarm right after taking a corner from another detached train, although this is my experience, car alarms on this map are unique in that they randomly spawn in one or sometimes two of a few places in each chapter. Zigzagging through 18-wheeler beds, parked cars, and more train debris, you reach a somewhat checkpoint when you must ascend the street below by precariously walking down a teetering tanker. When pinned, survivors can ascend the tanker back up to help, but at a huge inconvenience by ascending other surrounding vehicles and using a bit of parkour finesse. You continue to go under the bridge and see a slew of buildings across the street. Not really necessary to go this way either except for supplies. You will take the dirt hill up to get back on the road towards the bridge and ascend what is pretty much a pseudo-finale. Seeing the bridge is completely blocked by a huge vehicular pileup, Zoe and the crew decide that firing a high artillery shell is the perfect way to clear the way at the cost of alerting another horde.
Barricade? Big ass gun. Anybody got any ideas?
I mean, whoever heard of just, climbing shit, am I right? Fire the big ass gun though. After firing the howitzer, you then must wait for the preceding vehicle fire to roar until it peters out, taking on a huge wave of infected. Using the vicinity to lock down and hold back the infected, survive until the fire goes out. You will most likely go into the big building nearby and camp it down to avoid special infected high ground attacks and keep a steady supply of weaponry. You are given a minigun on the back of the army truck, and it's actually not positioned badly for once. Once the fire clears, you're free to cross the bridge, where you would assume the safe room would be right at the end of, kind of like that one Blood Harvest chapter, but nope. Still got a big patch of nothingness to cross into a building that holds the safe room. You do see an 18-wheeler loading area that looks accessible, but, well, if you do what I do, it's really not. You go into the safe room after a long, hard trek around a bunch of crashed vehicles and realize you're halfway down already. In retrospect, the longevity of the chapter isn't really too obnoxious, but the general flow of the map is awkward compared to the rest of its Left 4 Dead 1 counterparts, and honestly feels like a general mess of a layout in comparison to the linear flow of other established maps. There are a few interesting set pieces like the Skylight Warehouse, the Howitzer Bridge event, and maybe having to take unconventional routes due to the debris of the area, but a lot of Left 4 Dead campaigns do that already. But honestly, the color scheme, the setting and environment don't really resonate as original or set themselves apart from other chapters and maps in other games. Not good, but not bad either, just a big meh. Chapter 1 gets a 2 out of 5. The only safe room of the campaign serves quite a purpose to the narrative of the story between No Mercy and Death Toll by crossing out all wiped out evacuation centers in Fairfield, including Mercy Hospital, Fairfield Arena, and Borden High School. Although we never see the area or school, we do see that Riverside First Church may still be holding up, which foreshadows how this connects to the Death Toll campaign and its ever so lovely church guy. The safe room also foreshadows the whereabouts of Left 4 Dead 2's protagonists and just how bad the green flu epidemic has spread, showing all safe zones on the majority of the US being overrun, excluding New Orleans and the area near Lake Michigan. looks like I'm screwed here in Texas. Besides putting in Easter eggs in for Left 4 Dead 2 and the narrative, you go out into the streets once more with nearby areas serving no purpose except for minor pointless exploration. The 3-car pileup blocking your intended way can be taken by either going through the buildings on the right, the buildings on the left, or just jumping the truck in the middle head on. Going forward with a possible car alarm spawn, I don't see the point in accessing the left or right buildings except if you want a little bit of variety. You are faced with many more rooms with no purpose but to scavenge and waste time. You run into a few more car blockages and alternate storage rooms, side routes, but it's all done. It's all been done at this point. Each building type is pretty much the same with no variety. It's kind of like a game of PUBG or something where they copy and paste everything. You reach a few shipping crates that you either go through or go to the left and around them until finally reaching the finale zone by passing a choke point. You're given a fair amount of space to roam and run from infected while also deciding a proper holdout. But let's be honest, you'll end up on the roof of the storage room where the minigun is. The campaign's finale is fairly unique in that you must start a solitary generator to lower a heavily armed van. Why is it unique, you might ask? Well, for its time, it was the first finale to not require radioing for help from a stranger. You yourselves have to lower a conveniently abandoned van and create your own escape. The vehicle itself is an obvious parody or homage to the bus made and used in the 2004 remake of Dawn of the Dead. It seems to be the perfect way to plow through the persistent bloodthirsty savages. Starting this finale was also unique because the generator would go out in the middle of the finale and force the survivors out of their camping spots to reinitiate lowering the vehicle. While some people say there are generators in the passing and the sacrifice, they are mainly used once and they do their jobs throughout till the end, specifically in the sacrifice where the generator stops when 3 tanks are approaching, causing a survivor to jump down and start it back up as a sacrifice. A bit of foreshadowing, eh? You will have your typical tanks, but you're given enough supplies and ammunition, as well as a decently placed minigun to disperse them. The best spot and only real decent location to hold down is the roof, like I said. So in versus, most players will be attacking from the windows above or quick striking from the room below your feet. It's not much, so most of the time you'll be watching the world's slowest lift as you combat the infected. You can run around and whatnot, but it's not much to explore and you'll end up probably evading the tank around these parts just to return to the rooftop. Be careful not to be under the vehicle when it gets too low, or you will literally be crushed under its weight. And if you defib someone while they are crushed, they will be stuck in the car temporarily till the game decides to teleport you. Once the vehicle is lowered, the back door will open, and everyone must rush in, proceeding to show the van rush out of there with nobody in the driver's seat, and it cuts right before it actually crashes through the fence. So looking back, it's kind of asinine how long it takes to get to the finale area of the campaign, kind of stretching it with swamp fever, but not this bad. Most of the areas before the finale don't really stand out from anything done in the previous chapter, and the setting is just mundane at best. The finale itself has an interesting mechanic, but feels rusty after Left 4 Dead introduced scavenge and crescendo finales. You aren't given too many options for approaching the finale either, just doing one spot to take it on, while most other finales have at least 2 or 3 viable holding points. I would give this finale a 2.5 out of 5. So that means Crash Course gets a hard 2.25 out of 5. Not good. Not good at all. While you can utilize the shortness of the campaign to your advantage for achievement hunting to do the melee only run in Left 4 Dead 2, or the nothing special achievement run in Left 4 Dead where you're never damaged by special infected, but that's all the shortness really holds for it in a positive light. It was obviously rushed to release some kind of content for Left 4 Dead 1 before Left 4 Dead 2 was released, and it showed, even with its voice actors. Further evidence of this claim shows that some blocked off areas have spawn points for items, car alarms, weapons, and insta-kill water spots to show that they have been planned originally to be accessible. Crash Course was more than just a DLC, it served as a precedent for DLC on Microsoft's Xbox Live service. If you're a PC fanboy, this is gonna add some fuel to the flames. Valve had released the Crash Course downloadable content as a free update for all PC players, but when presented to the Xbox Live Marketplace, well, you know what, Nut? I'll let one of my favorite YouTubers, Donkey, tell ya.
Valve was releasing a whole new set of maps for Left 4 Dead for free. They were going to give you all the new maps for free. Microsoft saw this and told them, no, you can't do that, because they didn't like the precedent Valve was setting with the free DLC, and they didn't want other companies following in Valve's example. So you had the maps for free day one on PC, and then 3 weeks later, you had them for $20 on Xbox.
I'm not a fan of the campaign, but I hope I give it a fair and balanced review. Let's see what my friends think. Not enough chapters, man. Besides, it's I like the ending. It's fun. It's got a few insta-killing spots for the infected, but it's mostly in the survivor's favor till the end. Nanogerm. There's a truck in it, and that's pretty cool. Then the mage. So it doesn't look like I'll be doing votes for these campaigns since you all mostly want a chronological schedule, so let's just wait for next time when I do Death Toll and Mr. Better Safe Than Sorry himself. If you want to motivate me to make them quicker and produce less Overwatch content, or want me to do more Overwatch hero profiles, donate to my Patreon and let me know. Thanks to my Super Chat and Patreon donators: Lovable Tester, Mario, NATO 6141, Ricardo Ascension, Shialarbi Turtle Lord, Mo Mocha, Ninja Kirby 935, Scout with a Name, Twilight Duck, Florian P. Bell, Dr. Do PhD, Austin Langford, Michael Martinez, Obi-Wan Jones, Deja, TKX Shield, Exploding Burritos Experience, Nick Boy, Benny B, Drake and Z4, Taylor07, Just Lemons, and Andy1T. Thank you for your donations to Wow's Edge Gaming, baby. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything out on Crash Course. There is this part I forgot to mention.
Watch out for that goddamn steam pipe.
Man, I love steam.
Yeah, steam's alright, I guess.
Let me know what you want to see next time, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell. And until next time, I'm Zack Ass, aka Wow Such Gaming. I want you to stay